Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fast Money Football. I'm your host, Albert Vartanian, joined by a very special co-host today. He was just on breakfast television here in Toronto. He's now known as Johnny Hotshot, a.k.a. Michael Singh. He knows everything that goes on with Canada, Toronto FC. He's one of our favorite people. How you doing, buddy?
Buddy, you always pump me up here whenever I come on, so I'm always happy to join you here for Fast Money, my guy.
Dude, I got to. Canada, we got to talk about it. I know we've been talking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks, but it's just one of the best things that's happening right now in our country. They beat El Salvador yesterday 2-0, 3 matches in this window, 3 games unbeaten, 9 points, Mike. Did you expect coming into this window that they would come away with 9 points?
Well, last time I was on here, Albert, last week, before the start of this window, you asked me that question. What am I expecting here? And to be honest, I was a little ambitious. I said 7 points, if you recall. And you're like, whoa, 7 points. Well, lo and behold, 9 points out of nine. I don't think I was expecting it, but at the same time, like, can you really doubt this team anymore? Are you really surprised by anything this team does at this point? Because they are not only on their way to qualifying for the World Cup, but they're doing it in historic fashion. No team since 1997 in the final round of CONCACAF World Cup qualifying has won 6 matches in a row.
Hmm.
Canada just became that very first team. They're one of only 2 teams to remain unbeaten through 11 matches. And with the schedule they had ahead of them, we're seriously starting to talk about the potential of an undefeated final stage of World Cup qualifying cycle for Canada, which doesn't even sound real coming out of my mouth right now.
No, not at all. To think of how far they've come so far, just in a short amount of time. And I want to talk about that game a little bit. That was a very much a CONCACAF type of game. It was gritty. There was some questionable refereeing. There was, some questionable decisions by the referee. Buchanan in the box probably could have been a penalty going the other way. Nonetheless, Canada came away with the win. But looking at their depth, to be able to bring in Atiba Hutchinson and Stefan Eustáquio into the midfield after not having them in the previous game against USA, which they won 2-0, and now being able to bring them in shows you how deep this Canada squad is. And it's not just like a strong 11 that's getting them through this. It's the whole squad, Mike.
It's the next man up mentality that John Herman talks about. And, Stefan Eustáquio, who managed to actually get into this last game here, he was asked about that. How does this team still continuously find a way despite who's on the pitch or the conditions and whatnot? And his reply was short and sweet. He said, it's because we love each other. It's because we're willing to run an extra mile out there for one another, regardless of who is on the pitch. This Canada depth, as you kind of alluded to, it's real. There's no longer the days where we're talking about unattached FC, where random guys from off the street now are going to be representing Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Canada is going to be struggling to field the full squad.
Right.
This is now days where guys who are playing in Europe are struggling to get into this Canadian men's national team squad. So it's real right now. The depth is real, and their mentality is real, where they have a lot of belief, and it's translating really well right now on the pitch. Last night, it wasn't the prettiest of games, as you mentioned. It was a gritty, grindy, probably one of their ugliest games of the region, but they found a way. Without
Mm-hmm.
Alphonso Davies, they found a way. And that part speaks volumes to this team because the phrase is being thrown around often, team of destiny. Well, how can you argue it with that right now, especially when you consider the way that Atiba Hutchinson found the back of the net last night?
What a goal. One of the best goals I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, when I was watching that, I didn't know what happened. I'm like, did it go out? And sometimes the ball spins back, but you have to be good. I don't know how the saying goes. I forgot it, but you have to be good to create your own luck, something like that. And that's exactly what they're doing. A lot's being talked about the goals that they're scoring and their attacking threat, but I want to go back. The foundation of their defense. 3 clean sheets. That is, to me, I mean, the wins are obviously huge, but being able to keep the clean sheets shows you how good the team is. They're not going out and outscoring teams because they're leaking goals at the back. It starts at the back and moves its way forward.
You're bang on there. I'm happy that you pointed that out because that was the biggest question mark heading into this year. It's always been the biggest question mark with Canada is that defense and how are they eventually going to get that right? How are they ever going to get that center back, those pieces that are going to really help propel you forward? Well, they're doing it with a bunch of different guys right now. And I got to give a lot of credit to John Herman for really getting that system right. But if you go down the actual back line there, I mean, Sam Adekugbe, what a performance, what a window he's had. Alistair Johnston, I mean, I personally think he's emerged into the best player on that back line.
Hmm.
Then you were talking about someone like a Steven Vittoria, who didn't actually play in the game last night because he was suspended, but this guy has turned into a mainstay in the heart of the defense, and he's become really important. And then there's a couple of role players there as well, and Daniil Henry, former TFC center back, who has grown a lot since his TFC days, and as well Scott Kennedy, who's kind of thrown into the fire and taken everything in stride. And then you can add like people like Richie Larea who can kind of go up and down the pitch. Tejan Buchanan does a lot backtracking.
Hmm.
I mean, and of course we have to. I'd be remiss if I'm not mentioning Milan Borjan in net and what he brings to this Canadian men's national team. We talk about his saves and all of that, but this guy is someone you love to play for. We talk about that with John Herdman. I mean, Milan Borjan's the same way. He's a likable veteran, and he's a guy who, when you're out there on the pitch, I mean, you want to do everything to sort of help him out, and he's a perfect ambassador right now for the game in this country.
Yeah, you can't buy experience, and that's exactly what he has. He's been through it with Canada, as has Atiba Hutchison, as has Junior Hoylett. Can we talk about John Herdman for a second? I mean, he gets a lot of praise, but I think he deserves even more. He's a manager who's come in and completely changed his program. And we saw yesterday, once again, why he's such a good manager, making those substitutions in the second half, not deciding not to settle. I mean, they could have came away with a nil-nil win and the draw would have been fine. But he decided to put on some attacking players, put on Kyle Aaron, who ended up setting up that goal for Atiba Hutchison. I mean, it just shows, what a top manager he is. So my question is, if John Herdman wasn't the manager of this team, do you think we would be seeing this type of, I don't want to say resurgence, but this type of come up from Canada?
That's a really good question, and I don't know if it would be to this extent. Listen, John Herman's done a lot, not only managing the game, the ins and outs of the game, but he's done a lot in the recruiting process. I mean, he's done really well to nab a lot of dual nationals, and the first one off the top of my head is Jonathan David, who
Mm.
officially committed to Canada after John Herman arrived on the scene. I mean, potentially he would have done so anyways, but John Herman was there. Steven Estacchio, he's a guy who could have represented Canada or Portugal. He represented Canada. Steven Vittoria, as I mentioned, same thing, Portugal or Canada. He's choosing Canada. Someone recent, Ike Ugbo, who had a couple of different choices, and of course he went with Canada. Someone who hasn't really factored in as well, Io Akinola. He had
Hmm.
the US or Canada. Obviously, John Herman sold on Canada. A young player in Theo Corbeanu. He had Romania or Canada. And of course, John Herman swayed him and he chose Canada. There's a lot of examples I can list there where John Herman is really revamping this Canadian men's national team. I touched on the love that they have for one another. That wasn't around before John Herman.
No.
There wasn't that brotherhood, that hot buzzword that they're always using, brotherhood, before John Herman came in. He came in and really instilled that sort of mentality within the group. And as I mentioned, like you can measure the transfer values, you can measure the stats, you can measure the goals, all of that. One thing you can't measure is that sort of camaraderie and how much of a boost that gives you. And I think that is, like I said, translating really evidently on the field. And without John Herdman, I'm not sure if any of that would be possible.
Yeah, there's lots of talk about building a Milan Borjan statue in Hamilton. I think you got to throw a John Herdman one right next to it. I mean, he's so important to not only the men's national team, but the women as well. Let's not forget that. Before we get off the Canada topic, let's talk about Jonathan David. Scored yet another goal. What a window. He showed his quality. I mean, the composure, the chip, everything. He keeps doing it. He is expected to move from Lille over the summer to a bigger European team. Where is he going?
That's the $1 million question right now. And hey, a lot of the top clubs were already interested in Jonathan David before this window. And you have to think after seeing what he's done, more clubs will be interested and they'll be interested even more. Like he did really well to not move this January window, focus on the men's national team, and really increase his overall transfer value. Where is he going? I mean, there's teams are knocking all around the world. If I had to guess, I would one fit I really like is Liverpool. And I
Wow.
hate
Yeah.
saying that as a Manchester United fan, but I really like Liverpool as a fit. He is, of course, he can do everything that a number nine does, but the way that Klopp likes to play, I mean, he doesn't usually play with a traditional number nine. And Jonathan David's kind of perfect for that mold. He can kind of drop in if he needs to. He can run behind defenses if he needs to. He's just so smart at finding space. And if you have guys like Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane finding you in that sort of space, I mean, Jonathan David's going to score goals for fun. If he's doing so with Lille, I can't imagine what he would do with a team like Liverpool. So that I think that would just be a really good fit. I'm not sure if he's quite at his style of play kind of fits the Spanish style of play because I know Barcelona and Real Madrid are circling as well. So I'd actually like to see him come to the Premier League and see what he can do from there.
Mike, I'm with you. I want to see him in the Premier League as well, selfishly, and also because I think it'd be good for Canada and good for the younger generation. I mean, the Premier League is huge in Canada at the moment. Obviously, it's on TV almost every single weekend. This run to the World Cup is only going to help grow this game from the grassroots, and kids are going to want to follow in the footsteps of some of these players. And then you get to see potentially a player like Jonathan David in the Premier League scoring goals week in and week out. I think it's good all around. His value is going to rise. Players are going to obviously notice Canada, which they already are. I think all around, it'd be a great move if he goes to the Premier League. Liverpool, what a shout, though. I never thought about that, but that does fit really well. Your team, Manchester United, moving on from the Canada talk, they made some transfers as well. Nobody coming in, though. Anthony Martial out to Sevilla. Donny van de Beek, poor guy, didn't get a run in the team. He's gone on loan to Everton. What have you made of those moves?
It's a long time coming, to be honest with you, Albert. I mean, these are two guys who are kind of in a similar boat here where they were just simply looking for opportunity to play.
Yeah.
And regardless of who is at the helm, it seemed like they were struggling to get that opportunity with the amount of depth that Manchester United have, or whatever the reason was, because I can't even argue that in the heart of the park they have too much depth there, but Donny van de Beek, for whatever reason, couldn't find a place in the team. So for me, it was I saw it coming. I think everyone kind of saw the writing on the wall when it just kept building up that they wouldn't be getting these minutes. So hey, as a fan of both of those players, I like both of their game. I want to see what they do from here, and maybe they one day return to United, and maybe they'll be better for it.
Yeah, Donny van de Beek's a good player. I think people forget that he was part of that Ajax team that went to the Champions League semis against Spurs. He scored in that semifinals as well. He's a very good player there. So I think, I mean, you don't just lose talent. You don't do that. I mean, you lose form. That obviously that's temporary. That can always come back. And I think maybe Frank Lampard can get the best out of a player like him, specifically playing in almost a similar position that Lampard played. But back to Anthony Martial, he was a player I really had my eye on when he was at Monaco. I remember in the Champions League, he like torched Arsenal and I think in
Yeah.
two legs. And then he made the move to Manchester United. So much promise. He had, a couple good seasons, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out there. So United, they're light a couple players, Mason Greenwood being one. We're not going to touch on that situation, but he doesn't look like he's going to be playing. So now you're down three attacking players. Uh, what does Ranić do here? Because it doesn't seem like the current players in that squad are on his side.
Yeah, that's a good question, and man, it seems like every time we're thinking about Manchester United right now, it's a bit of a dark hole, but if you look at their past fixtures, I mean, they're unbeaten in their last, I believe, 4 games.
Right.
They've won 4 of their last 5. So it's a team that's finding a way despite everything that's going on. Now, what does he do? I mean, he has to figure out a way to get Cristiano Ronaldo going. I think that's the biggest thing. This team will only go as far as Ronaldo will take them. That's just the way that they're built, the way that they're constructed. You have to find a way to get both Ronaldo, Edison Cavani involved. Of course, Bruno Fernandes, who's done well under Ragnick early on, he has to continue on that trajectory. And then I'm looking at someone as well as like Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho. Those are 2 guys who to this point have had really down years. Can they get it back on track? Because we know the talent they possess. So to get their attack going, that's the biggest thing because that's what this team's MO is. And then if Rafael Varane can stay healthy, develop a strong center back partnership with either Harry Maguire, Lindelof, or Eric Bailly, then perhaps we can start talking about this Manchester United team a little bit more seriously when it comes to some silverware.
Yeah, there's definitely a team there, and probably the real only chance at silverware is probably going to come in the FA Cup, yes, or in the Champions League. But obviously, it's going to be very difficult for them to progress there, considering their form and how they've been playing. So the FA Cup this Friday against Middlesbrough, who have dumped them out in the from the League Cup in the past. I think it was 2015 penalty shootout. Borough knocked them out. So the odds at the moment: United minus 290, Borough plus 700. The last time United played, January 22nd. As for Middlesbrough, they played recently. It was a couple days ago. So my thinking is, if there was ever a time for a cup set and to catch United lacking or a Premier League team sleeping, it's coming off of a break. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think there's a chance here. Considering it's a 4th round, you're going to see a weekend side from that Manchester United team. At least we predict that there would be. Do you think Borough can pull off an upset here?
The cup set, I like it. I like that little lingo there. Um, Could they? Yeah, absolutely. This Manchester United team is not never a sure thing. Will they though? In my opinion, I still think Manchester United. This is Manchester United's game to win. Middlesbrough haven't won at Old Trafford since 2004, and right now, as I mentioned, Man U are they're finding ways to win games.
Yeah.
Middlesbrough aren't the best team in the championship by far. I mean, I think that right now they're in 8th place. They're in some decent form as well themselves, but they're not Manchester United, who have won at least 4 of the last 5 against Middlesbrough, aside
Mhm.
from that one upset that you were talking about. So, I mean, this team is fragile, but I don't think they're gonna completely break against Middlesbrough in the 4th round here.
Yeah, Middlesbrough 8 wins in their last 10, and as I mentioned, plus 700 to win the game. What's your official prediction, Big Mike?
So I got Manchester United winning, but I'm gonna do so in a fashion that both teams score. So I'm
Oh, I
I'm
like
taking
that.
a Manchester United win, but both teams score. So that's at plus 250.
You think Ronaldo starts this game?
So the reason I think he does is because this team needs the wins in any competition that they have a chance at winning silverware. So with the moves that have already gone out, I mean, and the long extended break, I think you have to start Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, if he starts, obviously United definitely deserve that minus 290 favorite. I think if he's in the starting 11, look out for those odds to skyrocket. If you want to back the other way, could be a better time to get even better odds on Middlesbrough. All right, that's it for us. Mikey Singh, thank you so much. You can follow him. There goes my voice, Mike. You can follow Michael Singh on Twitter at Michael Singh 94. You can follow me on Twitter at the Real Bert V. And if you want to watch more parlay content, please head over to parlay.tv. Take care, guys.